Started. So last night of this 4-week process, feel like it's helped to this point? Unofficial? Okay, good. So tonight, the big goal is just to kind of wrap all this up. We're going to cover a little bit of the transfer of command component, which is kind of one of the last components that we have on this whole development process. And then the rest of the night, I just kind of want to practice. I think the first time through, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and play a sim, and I will give all the ways that I would make it sound. So again, you just get comfortable with how a sim would look, work, operate, feel, how it should go. And then after that, you get to practice a couple, right? Does that seem like good? And not that everyone's going to get a chance to practice, but we can talk as a group. Did that sound right? Did that sound wrong? What was your decision-making process? What have we all kind of learned and collectively understand on this? So that's really the goal, is we kind of walk out of this all comfortable at the end, all right? Not too comfortable. So there's still a test. So for tonight, again, we're going to talk about the transfer of command. Again, why do we do it? When do we do it? And what does it need to include? All right, that's really the big components that we're going to cover tonight. We do it a lot. We kind of talked about this quite a bit. Not something that we do a lot, at least in the sense of a formal over the radio, hey chief, you got here, and we'll go ahead and do a transfer of command. Don't do it a ton, but the reason that it's so big, especially in this testing environment, that's a big component for our testing. We're seeing you as the candidate. What was your decision process? Did you keep accountability of this crew? Did you have a plan moving forward? Were you able to give that good transfer of what you had, what you have now, what needs to happen next, and this is where everyone's at. All right, so it allows us to see that you truly did have a good control of that scene. And in real life, there's still a potential that you might have to do it, and it is more than likely going to be in an informal way. So why do we do it? We're generally going to do it to transferring it to a higher ranking member. They're more experienced and capable to manage a larger growing scene, right? What did we say as a company officer? At my expectation, you guys would be able to manage how many crews? 3. I threw it up there. Yeah, 3. So not that I don't think you're not capable of doing more, but you kind of came in a capacity to be part of a crew. The chiefs are kind of there to be a capacity to run the scene. I'm not saying that that wouldn't make you a division or a different group lead for that scene, but we want to get somebody else established in that incident command role. We're going to transfer it to a better located member. So it's not just a more experienced person or somebody with a higher level of understanding of what we need to get done, but it's also going to be somebody that's going to be able to establish themselves in a chief's vehicle on that scene, right? So we want to get you, if you're managing 3 crews, you're probably either in your engine or in the front yard, right? More than likely probably in the front yard if it's still that early on, right? Not the best incident command location. We transfer that away to somebody that's able to remove themselves from that scene and manage it from a more secure environment where you're able to radio or monitor radio traffic and have a view of CAD and some of these other conditions that are going to allow you to be more effective in your incident command function. And then do we need to do it on every scene? No, it doesn't have to happen on every scene. We talked about this over and over again. We rarely do this, but we just want you to have a good understanding for if it's asked, what does it mean and how do we do it?
Question.
Yes.
Is it common practice, I guess, more or less courtesy, because we do a lot of mutual aid, right?
Yep.
So say Centennial arrives first, they get command at a blank fire. Is it kind of common courtesy to transfer that command to a SBM officer?
Great question, right? So if you're at Centennial, you get on scene for a mutual aid partner, you're at SBM scene and you assume command, right? Because you're the first arriving unit. You assume command for that scene. That's yours until it's taken away. You can't just throw it at someone.
Right.
So that's a good reminder for everyone. Just because somebody else showed up, hey, SBM got this, and you just kind of run away. Like they might be in the same boat. Like, no, you were doing okay. We're going to wait until our chief gets here, and maybe our chief will come and
Right.
contact you. And generally, I would say it depends on the incident commander, it depends on the scene, a lot of variables. But somebody from that organization would come up to you and say, "Hey, what do you got going on?" And then that's where they would do that formal transfer of command. Gary, hey, appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and assume command. Or they might just say, "Hey, I'm going to let you keep going with it. I'm just going to sit next to you just to make sure that we're in line with what we need to have happen." So I think that's generally what we found. Has anybody seen anything different on a scene?
I had it over on 104th. Fire.
Yep.
Grant showed up and
Yep.
he just let me go with it and stuck around.
Yep.
So.
And I think there's a different understanding with, like Centennial and SBM, especially with how the contract and everything's written up. It's very mutual acceptable to kind of have that go back and forth. Now, let's say if you guys had to go to White Bear for whatever reason you guys had to go to White Bear Lake. Is that same understanding there? Probably not, so they would probably want to take it. It's just gonna all depend on that mutual aid partner and the situation that we're in, so.
Did you stay in command at the Fridley Fire for quite a while too?
Oh, freaking-
Yeah, I think.
That was when you were hoping to-
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and that's generally what you're gonna see. It's your command until somebody else takes it. And that's why we kind of coach our chiefs when they get on scene. If it was a company officer that took it, it's up to their discretion if they're gonna take it or not, but that decision shouldn't just be, well, let's just see how they do. Let's let them start with, no, your job is there as a chief to ensure that that scene stays safe and progresses forward in a safe manner. And they might be able to accomplish that by also giving you experience and pairing up with you. Or they might say, hey, this is kind of getting to that next level. I'm gonna go ahead and take it and I'm gonna put you back with the crew. You're gonna go ahead and take alpha, whatever that might be. And that's that time that would make that would transaction, I guess, so. But you're right, it's a unique situation when you're on a mutual aid partner and you're the one that had command. So you would assume that their first driving truck's gonna want to take it. It might not be the case, especially if it's a truck and not a chief, so.
There was a certain incident we went to where Centennial was in command for quite a while.
Mhm.
And then the mutual aid that we were responding to, chief eventually showed up and then took command way late into the incident. That's what I was kind of wondering, like, is it more of a, give me this is my scene now?
Yeah, and
You know?
that's why we want to formalize, because if we don't know, all of a sudden you've got two different command functions happening, and that just creates chaos, right?
Right.
So that's really another function as to why we build this in, and there's importance to it.
Mhm.
If there is a transfer, it should be formalized in the sense that I'm aware that it has transferred, and then it's not just me, the whole scene is now aware
Right.
it has been transferred. So, great point.
I was
Yes.
just curious.
So, when somebody's asking for that transfer of command, really what we're asking for is, we want to know, what did you have when you got there? What do you have now? Where are your crews deployed? We're looking for your accountability, and what still needs to happen. And I know it's pretty easy to think, well, chief, did you not hear my size up? Did you not pay attention to what we've been doing and deploying and everything else? This is that, that check, as far as there's a lot of things that can happen face to face. I said it over the radio, but engine one, I actually need you to go do this, and then that's not heard over the radio. A lot of things can be missed, changed, and we all know the chaos of a scene, right? And the reality of it is, things can be different than what was said over the radio. And this is our time just to really clarify and ensure everyone is on the same page. I arrived, if I'm talking about this one right here, I think you guys can kind of tell, detached garage, that's where the fire was. Chief comes up, hey, what do we got? Chief, I got on scene, we had a well-involved detached garage and fire. We stayed defensive on that. I had engine 2 lay a line up the driveway for an exterior attack. Engine 1 made entry into the house, search rescue, and then engine 3 got on scene. They established a water supply, backed up engine 2 with defensive operations on the Charlie side of the garage. We still need to get an all clear of the second level of the residence, check for extension in that attic space. And I think that's really where I would kind of leave it right there, and whatever other big things I had next. But basically, I'm letting you know, this is what I have when I got there. What do I have right now is that fire's pretty much knocked out. We're in that checking for extension phase. Here's where all the crews are deployed. What still needs to happen? We still need to check for that extension in those locations, right? You had all the tactical objectives. What is still left that I should be considering? And at that point, I'm gonna say, all right, sounds good. I'm just gonna go ahead and hang out. I'm gonna go around, take some pictures, make sure crews are doing good, and leave you in command. A scene like this, would that be likely what would happen? Likely that company officer is gonna stay in command. So arrival conditions, again, we're not saying give me that full size up all over again, right? I just want you to confirm what your size up sounded like. We still have those. That's what you had, right? So again, for this, if you said, hey, on that transfer, give me those arrival, it's just I had a working fire Alpha Delta second, right? That was my arrival conditions. I don't need to go through the whole 2-story single family residence, unless there's something big that changed. Hey, chief, I thought we got on scene of a single family residence. Turns out it was a duplex. We've got residents in this one, or whatever that might be. That's a change in those conditions that might warrant some of that transfer. But for a scene like this, I had a working fire Alpha Delta second floor, right? What do we have now? Clearly the chief can see what you have now, right? They got on scene, they have eyes just the same as you, but they don't know necessarily the progress and the process that took place to get to that. All right, so what has been done? You know, do we have primary complete? Do we have an all clear? Do we have fire under control? You know, what are those objectives that you have checked off the list that are complete? And you have to give them that confirmation that, hey, those have been checked off the list, those are done. Or what is still being worked on? I still got crews working on a primary on the second floor. And we're still checking for the extension, we're working on that primary, whatever it might be. What are we in the process of doing that chief needs to understand still needs to be done? Because I still have it listed as a tactical objective. And then crews, where they're assigned, where are they? We're looking for that accountability, right? So as you've been asking for CAN reports, the chief was clearly hearing that you were asking for CAN reports. They clearly heard that you had PAR. They want confirmation, right? Because maybe engine one started out on first floor, then they got bumped up to second floor. Again, who's tracking all that? As the incident commander, unless there was a division that they were assigned to or whatever else, that's you, right? You know where all your crews are at. As they're driving there, they might not be able to track all that. And again, this is the time to have everything confirmed because they might have an understanding in their head. They want to hear you say it out loud. This is what you, as an incident commander, have all your crews located at. Engine one's doing a primary first floor. Engine two is checking for extension second floor. Engine three is on deck. You know, just those three things right there. Got it. I know where your crews are located at. That doesn't mean that you need to go through a whole PAR and confirm with all your crews. It just means you got to tell them where you have them deployed. And what do we still need? So the tactical objectives that you have left on that list. What are our primary ones on most fires? Search, rescue, fire control, right? I mean, that's kind of the main objective when we get there. We've talked in the past, maybe for whatever reason, forcible entry got bumped up to a priority because of bars on windows or doors, or there was some extra factor there, or ventilation was required to actually make progress on any search or whatever else. So there's always bump ups on what those tactical objectives are and what remains. Basically, chief wants to know, what'd you have? What have you done? What's being worked on still? And what was your next step? You don't need to tell me I still have to do utilities. I still have to do gas. I still have to do contact public works to get the water shut off. I still have to, you don't need all of that. What is the next big thing here? You know, chief, we got line started. I need to get that water supply, right? That's a big need, right? If you're not saying that as the next big need on this scene that you have up there, that's a problem because chief might assume you had that established already or somebody was already assigned to it. So that's why we have to kind of say, what is that next thing? We need to start ventilation. We need to check for extension. What was that next level that we have to get to for the crews that you have on scene? So once you've done a perfect job of transferring that command, where do you go?
Your crew.
Likely, wherever they tell you, right? So
Yeah, basically.
so it's the awkward, yeah, it's the awkward part of the scene, right? You were incident command, you very clearly knew what you were doing. Somebody else came and took that. So do I just kind of stand here? Well, hopefully the chief will give you that clear direction. All right, I copy your transfer command. I'm going to have you pair back up with your crew. I'm going to have you assume Alpha division. You'll be in charge of engine one, engine two on the Alpha side. I'm going to have you be my aide. I'm going to have you be, you know, whatever that is, they should make that very clear to you. All right. Go back to testing purposes. We leave that window in the back of the test. All right. It's going to be awkward, but you give your transfer of command and we don't say anything. That is not to fool you and make you think, well, where do you want me? Where do I need to be assigned to? Whatever else. That's just, we're just giving you that same amount of time for everyone to give whatever your transfer of command is. All right. And then we just end the scenario. So it would be up to us to say, we'll go ahead and have you move to this location. So don't worry about that when it comes to test time. And we'll kind of go over that tonight, just so you have a good understanding for what that awkward silence is there for. It's just there to give everyone the same amount of time for a transfer of command. So it just stays consistent for everyone. And then the test ends. But in real life, we have our chiefs trained to, now you need to deploy them somewhere, right? You can't just leave them walking around. Who needs to know the transfer? Dispatch, right? So that's a pretty big deal. If that transfer was completed, do we always do it over the radio? No, we even said it might be face to face, right? So if it's face to face, does anybody else have any clue that this happened? No. That's where the new incident commander, the chief that came there and took it, should get on the radio and say, dispatch from no, excuse me, Chief 4. Yeah, go ahead. I'm gonna be assuming command on Main Street Fire. We're gonna be remaining in the offensive strategy. Copy that. You know, and that's just the short little blip that they would give. Now, if this was all done over the radio, Chief would get on the radio at the very end of it, say, I copy your transfer of command. I'll go ahead and assume command. I'll have you take Alpha Division in charge of XYZ. And that's how it kind of sound over the radio, right? And it's important because if we don't do that, dispatch doesn't know, and they might, as much as we say we name command and then command is who's called for on the radio, right? It's not Lieutenant 15. It's not, you know, that specific unit anymore. It's command. So if you transfer, it shouldn't matter. Well, that doesn't always happen, right? And sometimes it's nice for them to know and have that identifier. You'll see it in CAD, they'll put that purple box around the unit number. That's who incident command is. It's just a good tracking device for them just to know who's having it. When a radio pops up, they can see the serial number matches to this unit. That's who's calling. Now they know who's calling them for command. It just is very helpful. It also helps when you have that tracked in your notes for timestamps as far as who's in charge of it. So that's up to the new incident commander to go ahead and do that. So again, on the test, don't feel like you're the one that has to get on the radio and say, dispatch from command, be advised, Chief 4 will now be assuming command. And you don't have to get on the radio and do that. It's not part of the test. It's, again, we're just giving that dead air just to give your transfer of command in whatever rhythm and pace you need to get that out at. Who else kind of wants to know what's going on?
Cruise.
Oh, the crews.
Who command is it?
Yeah, exactly. And that might be, because again, we should be working on the same tactical channel, right? So we're on structure fire, everyone's on FTAC A or whatever the unit, the radio channel is assigned for the incident. If that's the case, and I get on the radio and then say, dispatch from Chief 4, be advised, I'll be assuming command on Main Street, will be remaining in the offensive strategy. Everyone on the radio on that scene pick that up? Should, right? Now, if I had any changes for them, I would have to reach out to them directly. Or if I had assigned the previous incident commander to a division, I now need to reach out to them and say, be advised, you're now reporting to Alpha Division, right? So it's just a little bit of cleaning up without trying to get too wordy. Because again, when we talk for long spurts on the radio, what does that do? Ties up potentially emergency radio traffic. So we don't need to be on there forever. We just need to make sure everyone's aware. Command has been transferred. There's somebody else in charge. Things have happened. Now we're moving forward again in the same direction that we were in before. All right.
You guys utilize command worksheets often?
We really don't. We really don't. We've created a bunch of different ones. We even had the whiteboards with markers and they had magnets so you could put the unit and move it around. I think it was tried a couple of times, but nobody really actually has ended up using it. I think it's mainly because most of our scenes stay in that smaller range where you only have a couple of units assigned to the interior or, you know, a division's kind of taken over for some of those other locations. So it hasn't gotten too complex. I wouldn't say it never happens, but it's not very often that it does. And I think that's just more of a comfort thing. A lot of the chiefs that are chiefs for us didn't do it before, so they don't do it now. Not saying it's right or wrong. It's just saying they just have their comfort and that's the way. Now, a good tactical worksheet can be your friend, right? And that's why we give you guys a sheet of paper for the testing, because again, you're playing in sim world. Sometimes it can get a little lost on, wait, what unit is where? Go ahead and write it down, because on a scene, I would see engine 2 is over there.
Right.
But in sim world, I kind of lose that. So, and as you're developing and working, a command sheet might be useful and might be a good tool to kind of help you work through that and track as well. So I'm not saying there isn't a benefit to that, because there definitely is.
Just think if you had like a mutual aid fire and you got 3 engine 3s on scene.
Which can get confusing, and it happens, right? Because then you have to start saying, okay, Fridley engine 3,
Right.
Rhino Lakes engine 3, SBM engine 3. You know, you have to go by the full length term. You can't just say the same thing happens with engine 11, or you know, it's common. So that can be a difficult thing that you have to kind of work through and understand. So it definitely has its place. Say that much. That is the rapid run through, I guess we can say, of the transfer of command. Oh, so.
Rob made it on.
Hey, well, picture, bud.
Man,
Hi, Georgie.
George is making his sense.
All right, so That's pretty much that. Does anybody have any questions before we move into the next phase? Yes.
So kind of beyond this,
Mhm.
beyond this first initial phase, and, you know, it's just kind of started, I think, in the last year and a half, 2 years, where we get a dedicated dispatcher on that channel.
Yep.
Let's say the scene's winding down, at what point do we say that we can release that dispatcher, but keep that channel? Then what's the benefit of why we're keeping that dispatcher? Or what was the whole kind of reason why they said, we're gonna assign a dedicated dispatcher to this channel for this incident, and then you can release us whatever you want?
Yep. Great question. So really, the big thing for why we had the dispatcher move to our channel is we all know that there's certain times on a fire scene where there's just a lot going on, right? And dispatch might be reaching out for you, but you're on your TAC channel and they were on county, and now we're tying up county airwaves and TAC channel airwaves and going back and forth. So it was decided up in that busy part of the scene. Things are still active, fire is not under control, searches are not complete, you know, we got things that are still happening. Let's have that dispatcher listening in, they're dedicated to just that scene. Their job is, in the past, you kind of did your own thing and then had to reach out, and the dispatcher that was on the county main picked up what you needed. This way, you have a dispatcher dedicated just to you. If you needed resources, whatever else, you didn't have to wait to get a hold of them, wait for another crew on a different scene to clear so you could talk to them. They're there dedicated to you in that incident to make sure that they could take care of you. Now, when you would drop that, I would say is when tactically it doesn't make sense to keep that resource for that scene anymore, right? Do I need them to continually monitor and hear me once I have it under control, searches are complete? We've entered the overhaul stage and actually gotten into the overhaul stage. Maybe we're 2-3 PARs in, and you know, at that point we feel like we've got it really well under control. There's no extension, and we're just going to continue wrapping up with overhaul. Do I need to keep them? Probably not at that point. And that's generally you're going to hear, you know what, we're going to go ahead and we'll keep our TAC channel, go ahead and drop the dispatcher, all right? And generally, it's a good idea just to keep your TAC channel, even if you don't have mutual aid on scene. And I'll say, just because I'm inside doing overhaul and I'm on TAC A, and all of a sudden we switch to, you know, our city TAC, I might not have heard it, I might not have switched to it. Now there's a roof collapse, I'm pinned. Command's no longer listening to that radio channel. The dedicated dispatcher is no longer listening to that radio channel. It gets missed. So I generally say, as long as crews are working actively in that scene, just keep that radio channel for you, even if there's not mutual aid, until it's done. But the dispatcher you might be able to release again if it's not necessary for them to sit on that channel and just listen to what you guys are doing. Once you feel like you're beyond the need for them to get you resources or whatever else.
How much are they dictating what they're hearing on things? Because and also, is that used, let's say there's a court case brought up,
Mhm.
are they dictating kind of also to protect us from that, because it is such a chaos, you know, you see.
Absolutely. I mean,
Command of what we said we want something done, we may not remember.
so you know, we've had meetings where there was talked about, you know, some dispatchers came from the police side where, I mean, everything gets typed and then it gets put in, and the other dispatchers maybe weren't as sure of what needed to be typed. So some of the things that we were telling dispatch, you know, anytime that we're clearing the radio to talk, you know, primary was complete, or this was, you know, there's those big tactical objectives completed. It's great to have that in there. Do I need to have it in there that there was a fence on the Charlie side that is tough to climb over? Probably not. But they are dictating a lot of that. And again, a lot of those notes then can be used to our benefit to help us as needed, even if it's just filling out the report later on and going through some of those notes. So it's all there. And even if the notes aren't there, the audio recording is still there. So, I mean, it's still stuff that can and will be used against you in the court of law, right? So it is a document that is accessible in that sense. So yeah, that is also what they're there for. So it's not just to listen. They're also typing up, and you'll see those notes just start piling up on CAD as that changes, which is also a nice thing. As an incident commander, I moved to my, you know, remote incident command location. I got CAD up. I didn't quite hear what they said, but it popped up and oh, all right, no, that makes sense that they were doing that. All right, and then I can confirm with that crew. All right, I hear you're on the Charlie side or whatever that is. So it is beneficial, but we did tell them they don't need to type everything that comes across. But if it's the pertinent stuff, you know, it's beneficial to have that written down. So especially to give a timestamp too. All clear was completed at this point. Fire control is completed at this point. You know, all those timestamps are now on there, which is a beneficial thing to Any other questions?
I kind of have one piggybacking off that. When do you release part checks or part prompts from dispatch? You know, if you're like, oh, you can take us off the clock.
Sure. That's a tricky one, right?
Because I've seen it done when
Yep.
there's still crews interior, granted they're doing overhaul, but they're still
Mhm.
inside.
And
And
is there still a hazard during overhaul?
right, that's when a lot of.
Absolutely, right? So you need to make that determination as incident command. How much involvement happened in that attic space? How much involvement was in that? If we're just, clearing out one little room and again, we feel very confident after doing some CAN reports or talking to some crews that were inside. All right, I think we're safe. You can go ahead and drop that. Now, that being said, we shouldn't have to wait for the 15-minute par check
Right,
to have par of our
Yeah,
crews.
you're
So
still getting it more.
Yep. So what we've decided is, technically we get on scene, we could just tell them to take us off the clock because we're doing continuous par checks.
Right.
The nice thing about par checks is when they say this is your third par, it's been 45
Exactly.
minutes.
Yeah.
Like, and again, that's that reminder in your head, like, if this isn't getting better, I need to be improving the scene or changing our tactics here. Like, we're just chasing this fire. So it's a good reminder to kind of know that, oh, I've had this many par checks, I'm this far in. I don't like to drop it until I feel very confident that our crews are working in an environment that is not going to, it's still technically an IDLH, but it's not going to cause any harm to drop that CAN report. Because again, it's giving me that reminder that we're still doing overhaul and you're telling me it's a 6, 7, 8 par check.
Mhm.
Whoa,
Right.
maybe I should get some fresh crews here or take a different approach to this. But it all depends on this. So kind of leave it up to you for a gut check. When do you feel it's safe to kind of drop that? These are good questions.
It's the same for like mutual aid crews, and is the line of stay there until it's completely done? When do they get?
A line of stays until we release them. So any call that we get in Anoka County, Helena or North are gonna be automatically started to that scene, right? Not North. No, thank you. I don't know why I said that. They're automatically started to that scene. Their job is solely to stand by for you as the responders. They're not coming for patients. Now, obviously, can we use them for a patient if we come across one? Absolutely. But they're coming for fire standby. They're coming for that scene to help take care of anybody that gets injured in our course of work on that scene. Do we want to cut them before overhaul is done? Probably not. That's when a lot of people get hurt. I can tell you the injuries still happen. Granted, generally they're not as severe, but they still happen. I mean, think about the things that we're doing and the environment that we're in and how long we've been there. Injuries still have the potential to happen at that point. So it's beneficial to keep them around. I like to keep them until I'm confident that overhaul is going to be completed, or at least we're done with, swinging axes and doing the things that are really going to get some people hurt. Once I feel like we're beyond that and it's a safe scene, again, incident commander, you have the authority to then release them. They're tied just there for you. That ties into an even better question. You get on scene, you believe or you know for a fact that there is a patient that needs medical care.
More rigs.
You need to request another ambulance. All right, because I can tell you right now, that first ambulance that was coming just for you, it's getting used for that patient now, right? We're not gonna say, no, you can't touch them, that you're here for us. No, they're there to go ahead and help that patient because that's what we're all there for. But now we need to backfill that position and we need to get somebody else coming to now staff that scene. Doesn't happen a ton, but how many times have you had someone with smoke inhalation or something else that crew is kind of tied up with it? You go through dispatch, just give me a second, ambulance for fire standby while they're assessing the patient or whatever it is. It doesn't hurt to get them started because there's quite a few times, yeah, it seemed like minor inhalation. They're just going to go ahead and assess them. Well, then they have to go code down to wherever because it really wasn't just minor inhalation. They were, their adrenaline was getting them through whatever they were working through, and it's not good. So that's a good reminder for us. If we have patients that need care on that scene, you've got to get that next rig for us on that scene. And generally that align a rig, I mean, they're not a fire rig, but as incident commander, you're kind of they're there for you, right? So don't forget, if you want them doing blood pressure checks on crews and rehab, go tell them to go do blood pressure checks on crews and rehab. Do an assessment on crews as they're coming through. They're our resource. They're there for us. They're there for our crew's protection, and utilizing them in rehab is 100% acceptable use of them on that scene. And I'd tell you, I'd say at least 85 to 90% of the time, the crew actually doesn't mind doing it. And they actually even come up and offer to do it. It's not every time. I mean, we've all been tired on on a call before, so I don't blame them, but they generally do offer and have no problem doing that, and it's a beneficial thing, because why not? Why not have, you know, crews just get checked? I mean, we all know the statistics, what happens when somebody's working on these scenes, especially a couple rotations in. Cardiac arrest is no joke in our business, right? Get those blood pressures, have them do assessments, have them look, and they just, they see enough people and come across enough patients, they just almost looking at people are able to kind of pick up on little cues, all right? And I've even seen that like in rehab, where they kind of look over, they're like, are you okay? Like, can we get you some water? Or, you know, and they kind of almost start into that, which is a lot of times it's, it's a lot harder to say no to an ambulance crew than it is if I come over or firefighter XYZ comes over, you doing okay? Yeah, I'm fine, leave me alone. You know, if it's the ambulance crew that's telling you, we need to do something, there's a little bit more teeth to that generally, which is a good thing, because we generally try to brush that stuff off when we should be getting checked and looked at, right? It should be part of the rehab process, which none of that was included in any of this stuff. This is, again, I call it the incident command light version, but those are big components to this as well. What's happening outside of the incident command and what needs to be taking place. That is another big component to that. It's a good question so far. You got me.
Are they on our tech channel then? Are they listening also?
They are not. So they do not have our TAC channel. They do not have anything. So I cannot call them on the radio. I have to either call dispatch, and then dispatch will call their dispatch, which will in turn then call them. It's generally a lot more easier if I just walk over and talk to them, other than playing telephone tag. So that or I'll assign them. And that's generally why I will have them go sit in rehab. Because if they're sitting in rehab, now all I have to do is call rehab, and rehab can talk to that Atlanta crew. So it cuts down the communication much quicker. So, yeah. And that's why we generally want to stage rehab close to the scene, but in an area that you can still get out, right? And that's really for Alina, so they can kind of position their truck. They can be next to rehab, but still leave if needed for transport, so. Good.
Like rotating crews, if they're not on air, they're just doing rehab, but they're calling you, you just kind of watch them, and is there a given time? It depends on what they do, I'm sure, but.
Let's say I'm just sitting on the 2.5 exterior and not in the smoke, and I'm just sitting there, and how long does it take for me to rotate that crew out of that spot? Or
Yeah, I guess you just comment on rotating crews, I guess, how that works.
so the best way to rotate crews is base everything kind of off of air, right? So if you're not wearing your pack, it's kind of hard and we forget, right? Because generally it's, I've used up my air, I need to go get fresh air, copy that, you go to rehab, and that's just our easy transition, right? Or, hey, we're getting low on air, we need to come out. All right, I'm gonna have engine 3 take your spot, you come out, you go to rehab, or you recycle and then come back up to the scene. If they're not utilizing air, now you as the incident commander have to start thinking again, because you're not going to be prompted. How many times do we say, chief, I'm kind of tired, can I go to rehab? We don't get on the radio and do that, right? We don't. And we saw it on plenty of different scenes, grass fires, the grass fire off of 109. Nobody was doing rehab. How long were they out in that field working on that fire? Hours. Yeah, pulling 2.5 and inch and 3/4 and then 1 inch hose and getting supply lines and all the stuff that they were doing. We weren't having them pull out to rehab. We realized that's a failure on incident command because we were not getting the prompts of I'm low on air. Well, I still need to assess you as a crew and get you rehabbed appropriately, because otherwise, how effective are you going to be? You know, and how much more dangerous does it then become for you on that scene?
So like this last winter with that rekindle,
Mhm.
we had that fully involved.
Yep.
I don't think any of us ever took breaks. We sat back and it was super nice out. We just sat there and put out fire all night.
Yeah. Yep.
That's all we did.
Yep.
Nobody went interior at all. We never put a pack on. We never did anything.
And we were fortunate enough to have enough chiefs walking
Yep.
around, and they were checking in with
We
other
kind
crews,
of-
like, how you doing? Like, are you good? And
We'd usually be paired off with someone and he'd take the hose line for a minute and then I'd take it for a little bit, you know.
Yep.
We just kept working together.
so it's not a hard and fast that you need to do it every time, but
Right.
as the incident commander, you need to ensure that somebody is checking on these crews. And how are we eating them up? How are we using them? Because there's some departments, you go through rotations, you're leaving. You're going back to the station, you're done. I've been through 6, 7, 8 on a scene. Easy. Not saying it was right. I'm not looking for a pat on the back. I'm just saying that maybe wasn't the best thing in the world to be doing. I mean, to the point where it's like, how effective can you be after that many rounds of going in?
Makes for a long day.
It makes for a long day. And at some point, again, what do we know kills us? Cardiac arrest. And again, talk about having that restricted breathing. elevated heart rate, encapsulated in your gear, you know, all those things, it's not a good combination to just keep forcing people into. So at some point, you have to make those decisions. How many rotations is enough? Are they having their blood pressures checked? Is somebody monitoring them in rehab? Have they not been going to rehab at all? Do I need to get them to rehab? Do we need to what do we need to do to assess them? And a lot of times that's going to be why we have division set up. Because that division chief is there with that crew, seeing them as they're coming in and out and able to monitor, like, oh, okay, they're kneeling down, they're not working. All right, you know what? I need some fresh crews here. And we rely on our divisions to kind of make sure that those decisions are being made. Now, as incident command, you still have the authority to tell that division, you need to get a fresh crew up there. You know, we don't always catch it. Another spot that you might see that is on a platform, on a ladder truck, on if they've got that giant bottle of air on the side of the tank or truck. We had it on DEMCON. There was somebody up on the platform and they had their 6,000 PSI cylinder on the side of the truck. And I think they were up there for like an hour. All right. Are they doing much? No, but it was July. It was 88 degrees outside. It was humid. Who wants to be on air that long, sweating in your gear, fully encapsulated? You know, we shouldn't allow it. We got to rotate it, you know, and sometimes as a company officer, that's going to be your job to say, hey, I got to rotate my crew on this crew to keep my crew, you know, at the same level. Because we all know, let's go do overhaul. One person's kind of doing the most of the work. And I'm not trying to say there's always just that one person that does all the work, but somebody's getting in there and really, you know, grabbing, sealing and pulling stuff, and while other people are kind of hanging back. Well, if I just let that one person just keep going, they're going to be out of air, while the rest of us still have 2,500, 3,500 PSI. Well, now we have to leave. That was not an effective use of our crew. Maybe I should allow, all right, you do a little bit of pulling, you kind of go back to the line. Next person gets in, they start pulling, now you shovel and scoop, you know, and just kind of rotate your crew. You got to have that mindset. And that just expands on the scene as far as when divisions get set up and incident command is there on who's looking at what and how that stays fresh and keeps your crews safe. Effectively distracted me and got me to go down the rabbit hole. I love it. Man, it's good. It's good. It's good stuff. So, all right. Well, we still got plenty of time. It's good. So what we'll do is I'm going to go ahead and play the scenario. You guys just to listen to me as I run through it. And you guys can all make fun of me because I did not practice at all. So we'll see how this sounds. And then let's just talk about it. Because I don't want you guys just to keep practicing. I want you guys to hear and feel how it should flow and how it should look and how it should go. And then we can kind of go from there. All right. Of course, I'm not going to have the audio set up right now, but that's fine. So basically, they're toning out box alarm at that location. It's an SBM call, so I know I've got an SBM all call, Fridley engine, Lexington staffing. Dispatch, SBM engine 1. Go ahead. Engine 1's en route. Crew 4. And of course, I would say the address because I just didn't read it. But going en route to 86th lane, start for fire. So from here, I can tell I've got pretty good crew sizes. Crew 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. I'm not saying it's always going to be realistic, but we're not trying to judge you on how well you can manage a crew of 2 or a crew of 3. You've got good crews, use them. And we just want to see how you would do that. Dispatch from SBM engine 1. Go ahead. Engine 1 is arriving. I've got a small split level single family residence with working fire Alpha Bravo corner on the upper level. This is an offensive fire. Engine one will be laying a line Alpha side for a quick hit while I complete a 360. We remain in the offensive strategy. I'll be assuming 86 lane command. Dispatch copies your on-scene report. I'm gonna do my 360 while engine one is deploying to that Alpha side. Walking around. Dispatch from FPM 86 lane command. Go ahead. 360 is complete. Confirmed I do have a working fire Alpha Bravo corner, upper level. We do have a lookout basement on the Charlie side. No hazards found. We'll be remaining in the offensive strategy. Dispatch copies your 360 report. Engine one from command. Go ahead. Engine one, I need you to complete that quick hit on the Alpha side. Make entry Alpha side first on the Alpha side entry. Make your way to the upper level, search, rescue, fire control. Engine one copies. Engine two staged. Engine two from command. Go ahead. Engine two, I need you to lay in that hydrant from Hastings into engine one. Have your driver assist in setting up the water supply and have your crew grab a second line off of engine one, back up engine one on the interior Alpha side. Engine two copies. Engine one from command. Go ahead. Can I get a CAN report? We're making good progress on your orders. Command copies. Tower three is on scene. Tower three from command. Go ahead. Tower three, I need you to grab your tools and a rip bag. You'll be on deck on the Alpha side. Got engine one and engine two interior. Tower three copies. Engine two from command. Go ahead. Can I get a CAN report? We're making good progress on your orders. Command copies. Engine two from command. Go ahead. Engine two, it appears we've got a good knock on the fire. If you can complete a primary behind engine one. Engine two copies completing the primary. Engine one from command. Go ahead. Engine one appears you got a good knock on the fire, confirming. If that is the case, engine one copies, we do have fire control on the upper level. Copy that engine one. I need you to continue with a primary and check for extension in that upper level. Copy. Chief 4 is arriving on scene. Please give a transfer of command to Chief 4. Chief 4 from 86 lane command. Go ahead. Chief, we arrived on scene. I had a working fire, Alpha Bravo corner, upper level. Engine one made a quick hit, made entry, search, rescue, fire control. Engine two is backing up. Engine one has fire under control. They're now completing checking for extension and a primary. Engine two is behind them, backing them up, completing a primary as well on that upper level. Tower three is on scene. They're on deck, Alpha side. Do you have any further questions for me? Negative? And then we sit in silence. I don't know how you guys go through this. Is tough. Your nerves go up a little bit. So, all right. Obviously, it was not perfect. What could I have done better on that? What did you guys catch? What was good? What was bad? Let's talk about it.
So I don't know if you're supposed to give your CAN reports out
So-
better, or you're just asking for the
Yep.
CAN
So
report.
as incident command, I'm asking for the scan
And
reports.
so you don't need to get them.
And
back.
during the
You're like,
simulation, what you're going to hear is I'm making progress. And
Okay,
again, it's not to lead you down any wrong paths.
Okay.
It's just there to say I'm making progress on the orders that you gave. All right, and that's all that we're gonna do. And it's designed so we don't mislead. It's designed so we as evaluators don't screw it up. And if we do 8, 9, 10 of these in one day, all of a sudden, all the orders that we just did start blending together. And engine one, what's your CAN report? Yeah, I'm interior first floor making fire control.
Yeah.
I assigned you to Charlie side for, yep. So again, it's just to make sure, hey, also to keep you accountable, what did you order them to? You know, and what did you have them doing? And that's why it's important for you to kind of track that on your sheet as well.
could have probably had Tower 3 hit the utilities also.
Could have, absolutely. There's nothing wrong with saying Tower 3, I need you to grab on deck, have the rip bag up on the Alpha side, go ahead and secure gas and sit outside. I like to say very specifically, what are you going to secure? Because if you say utilities, what does that mean?
Right. Power, gas.
Power and gas, right? Generally, and you could include water on that if you really wanted to. What are the utilities? Where are you gonna shut electric off?
In the garage or basement.
Inside. I'm gonna have to go inside of that residence. If you're in an on-deck position and I say secure utilities, that is not an address or an open invitation for you to go inside and start finding power, right? Do I need to worry about power this early on in the scene? Unless my crew was telling me this is an electrically fed fire or something other than that, I don't really need to worry. I need to worry before I start truly ripping apart, walls and start doing some aggressive overhaul and checking for extension. So I would say you just grab gas on whichever side, or just say grab gas and then be on deck on the alpha side. What else stuck out to you? Anything? I didn't have any future needs in my transfer of command. I just said what I had done. I said, what we were in the process of doing, but I never said, we still need to get a primary at the lower level, or, that would be a great one. Still need to get utilities and start ventilation and checking for extension in the attic space, whatever that might have been. Those are kind of important things. So
mention that in your scenario,
yes.
but on scene, a chief would already know, okay, they check these boxes, we still got this to do. You don't really have to go, we gotta do this.
Yep.
This.
No, so you don't need to go through all of it, but I would say, on this scene, we've got this done, we still need to get a primary at the lower level.
Yes.
And that's how I would leave it on that. Because again, was that still that tactical objective that I have missing on this that really needs to be addressed next? I was kind of mumbling as I went around. You don't need to say your thoughts as you go around the building either. We're only gonna grade you on what you say as if it's over the radio. So if you're just saying, all right, I'm walking around the building, oh, I notice gas is over here. I'm just assuming you're talking to yourself. And that's fine, that's your process. You're not getting any extra points for just speaking. You know what, that's your thing. Until you say, Tower 3, grab that gas, or tower, make entry over here, or, on my 360 report, that is a lookout basement. If you just say it as I'm walking around, oh, it looks like it's a lookout basement, okay, you're just making notes. And I'm not holding it against you. That's your time to make notes and kind of go through. But I need to hear it when you key up that radio and reach back out to command, or I'm sorry, dispatch, right? Yes.
I'm gonna get off topic a little bit, but so judging by the fire, small fires, so I think it'd be manageable. You got your primary engine there and you hook up water, then tower shows up or whatever. We're not gonna worry about hooking water to the tower, nothing. That's doesn't justify.
So like a second water supply, basically,
Yeah.
or no. So on this scene, I would not. It's department dependent, right? Because there's some departments that no matter what, there's always 2 water supply. There's always, and I'm not saying that they're doing it wrong. I'm just saying for what we generally come across, we supply the first truck or that primary truck. And if it's big enough, we'll supply another truck. But this didn't really warrant having to worry about a second water supply in this scenario. That's generally how we would tackle that. I chose quick hit. I mean, again, I think we got unseen. You can see that there's fire showing. It's not going to show me, but fire showing from that exterior Alpha Bravo corner, upper level. Perfect situation. Go ahead and have them start hitting that. Can they do that while I complete my 360? Absolutely. And then once that was complete, I updated the 360 and then I went back to engine 1 and confirmed. Complete that quick hit, then make entry on that alpha side. Does anybody think that's too early? Am I still addressing 2 in, 2 out? My other truck was already on scene by the time I had released them to go in. So I don't know if you noticed that. Engine 2 was already on scene.
Yeah.
Now, were they standing in the front door before they were going in? No, but on this scene, we've already knocked it down. We took a lot of the power out of that. The longer that we wait, the more that has the potential to get worse for everyone inside. Get them inside, get engine 2 to back them. Yes.
So I got a crew, they're attacking from the outside. I come around, I do my 360 and let's say I come in contact with those guys first. Do I truly just give them the order to go in before?
So we're dealing in sim world.
Right.
It's weird, right? And in the actual world, you completed that 360 and the first person you see in that driveway is your crew that you gave those orders to. Is there anything wrong with me saying, hey guys, 360 is complete. I'm gonna have you complete this quick hit make entry, it's a lookout basement on the Charlie side. Is there anything wrong with me saying that to them? Who do I still need to say it to? Dispatch over the radio. So there's nothing wrong with doing that face to face. If anything, I would argue that it's probably better in the sense that how much more clear do we have direction as a face to face? But what did you lose? Nobody else got that information. So you still need to make sure you come back and give that good, clear radio communication for everyone else to understand and hear. So, and that's where I think you'll see that some people stumble because you can get into a rhythm or a routine on how you would normally do things. As soon as I say it to you, it's completely out of my brain and I moved on to the next thing. Well, now I never said it over the radio and now nobody else had any idea that I did it, right? So that's why SimWorld is difficult in some senses because I can't see the progression of the orders that I was giving or where the crews are located. But it's simpler in the sense that I don't have to worry about how I would get tumbled out of my routine or rhythm on a scene like this. So it has its positives and negatives. So
Would you have said working command? So you weren't really working with your crew per se? But you're the first truck there, so you kind of.
on this one, I wouldn't, because in the sense that if I'm saying working command, I'm going in with my crew.
Okay.
I'm gonna go help them with the hose. I'm gonna, even if I'm in that doorway pushing hose in, working command. I'm gonna have my crew at 2, because really I came on a crew of 4.
Right.
My driver's still outside. I'm with the driver outside. Those crew 2 are making entry. I'm not really a working command. I might not be in the best well-established command post, but I'm not a working command. I'm establishing myself as incident command on the exterior. So,
So that's the scenario. I send my crew of 2 in. I got the guy in the pump and me. Is the other truck there yet? Assuming there's no other truck there yet, is it safe to send that crew of 2 in?
you as the incident commander, technically you have 2 on the outside. If you are both geared up and ready to make entry, I would also say you need to evaluate what that fire looks like. 'Cause just because you can fall within that rule doesn't mean that you should always just fall back. Well, I had the 2 and 2 out. Well, unless you were really willing to implement that, or you truly needed to implement it, you better have a good, just reason for why they went in, right? Now, fire that size, I would agree that that's probably fine, especially if with a quick hit and having those 2 people outside and another crew coming. Just fine. Now you got fire showing from 8 different windows, not quite defensive, but it's pretty much everywhere. Let's have them hang outside for a little bit longer until we get that other crew actually ready to back them up, right? So use that mindset. Can they safely make entry? And from that fire, what was it showing you? What was the fire behavior on this fire that we had? Room and contents for the most part, right? I mean, generally, where would we have thought that room would have been? Living room, right? Generally, it's on that front corner, upper level of the split. That's probably the living room right there. Kind of weird that there's not smoke coming out in other locations, but for the most part, that's held right there. I'm going to assume that there's been smoke charged through that whole upper level, possibly quite a bit of heat. If it's only coming out of this one spot, and I don't have any smoke puffing from any attic spaces, I don't have any smoke puffing from any other window, door, anything, pretty confident that it has not extended too far yet. And if I do a quick hit, I'm gonna be able to cool that environment and safely go in and finish it off. And by doing that, I'm gonna improve the situation, and I'm gonna even more rapidly be able to complete those primaries on top of it. So, anything wrong with having engine 2 lay a hydrant line into engine 1? No, I think that's generally how we do things, is that first truck goes up on scene, the next truck is gonna pull the hydrant line in, or reverse pull back from that truck to a hydrant. Be very clear when you're splitting a crew. So technically, did I split engine 2's crew? Yep. Engine 2 driver, I need you to complete that water supply. So basically, I'm letting them know, go ahead, hook that hydrant, pull in. Your driver's gonna be the one that finishes that. After that's been pulled in, I need that crew to go grab that next line off of engine 1 and go back them up. All right. And again, you have to base that off of your knowledge on how much water is truly necessary on the scene. What does your truck carry? How much, to complete a quick hit and then make entry. You're not going to need a ton of water on a fire like this, but it is going to be beyond your tank at some point. So getting that water supply established is good, but I still have enough water in my tank to complete what I'm trying to complete safely. Would there have been anything wrong if I said engine 2, grab a backup line off of engine 2 on your way in? So I have one pump and another pump. Is there anything wrong with that? No. Now, am I gonna be able to supply both trucks really easily and well? Probably not, but it's, at the end of the day, as long as you're clear and purposeful, nobody would ding you any points for that. That was your decision to make as incident commander. I wanted one line off of this truck and one line off this truck. You gave very clear orders. That's fine. You established and completed what you needed to do. Now be mindful of, if you're gonna have engine 2 do a lot of the firework and they don't have a water supply, that's probably not a great situation, right? Nothing wrong with having engine 2 supply engine 1 and then engine 1 coming back to supply engine 2, but not really the most efficient or effective way to get a water supply established to that scene. So just be mindful of what you are ordering and what it can do. We're not saying it has to be one exact specific way to get all the points, it just has to be very clear, well thought through control of the scene.
So is there any? I don't know, power transfer, but you've got a crew of 4, yourself, you've got your engineer who's gonna get the pump set, you've got 2 other people.
Mhm.
Can't they each pull a line up
Technically,
to that, and then, let's say your second truck arrives, they also pull on, because let's say, God forbid, your first pump goes down,
Mhm.
then you're not waiting to pull a line and get everything going, then you already have a line. pulled.
Absolutely, and we've actually done that on quite a few scenes where that first truck gets there and they'll actually just pull 2 lines. We generally do it on a garage fire, just because 2 3/4 on a garage fire seems to work really well. And then what we gain then is those 2 people that were working those lines on the exterior, one of them can drop their line for another crew to come up. They can jump on that line together now and go make entry. So we gain that efficiency and that next crew can just walk up and grab that line that's already there. So absolutely nothing wrong with that, and absolutely nothing wrong with having a second pump that can now operate in that capacity for a backup if that first pump goes down or the water supply comes up dry, which we know can happen, right? It doesn't happen a ton, and I'll tell you for a fact, there are some departments out there that their backup line has to be off of a different truck, right? It has to be. You can't have a backup line off of the same truck, because that truck goes down, it's no longer a backup line.
It's not redundant.
It's not redundant, exactly, and that's why they have 2 water supplies, and that's why, you know, if anybody took Blue Card, you know, you'll hear a lot of times, engine 11, I need you to pump my water supply. Well, they're not just hooking your truck that's 400 feet away to an LDH to the hydrant. They're literally hooking their truck that's 20 feet away from that hydrant to the hydrant, and then they're supplying your 400-foot line section, because now if your pump goes down, I can still force water through your pump at least enough of a rate to continue to push water out on through your hose stream. So there's so many different ways out there to operate. We're not putting any of that strict rule on you. We know that we cannot effectively operate. We do not have the resources up front to truly actually operate with redundancy. We have to trust our equipment to some point. Now, is there anything wrong with doing 2 different lines? Absolutely not, off of 2 different trucks. Completely acceptable, because it is safe. What you lose is your ability to supply both of them, maybe effectively or efficiently. But it is helpful, at least in that upfront, where as long as you're going to supply one of them and you have 2 separate, at least for that initial, in case something goes down, at least got 2 different pumps with 2 different water tanks. Nothing wrong with it. Anything else on this one?
Did you notify dispatch of it being a cul-de-sac at all, or like dead end?
There's nothing wrong with doing that, especially, you know, I think we get spoiled because we're always looking at a map, so we can all see that on the map, we know it's a cul-de-sac. Where I've heard it used efficiently is when incident command will say, I need my first engine and my first ladder on 86 lane, all other units must stage on Hastings. Just so nobody thinks I'm gonna stage on 86,
Right.
because we all know in that cul-de-sac, you're just gonna clog it up, right? So now everyone's now cognizant and aware, all right, staging is gonna be along Hastings, only those first 2 trucks are gonna go up in there. Now, where do you think engine 2 was staged on this? When they call in, they're staged. So it was at the hydrant, at Hastings and 86, most likely, right? So there's nothing wrong with just saying engine 2, pull in from the hydrant, or grab a water supply from your hydrant and lay in, because technically they should be staged at a hydrant. So you don't have to say from this exact hydrant. You just have to say pull in from your hydrant and lay in. So they're probably out on Hastings. Now I've got 2 trucks in there, right? And I've also got the water supply coming in. Might be a little more difficult now to get any more resources in there. I might have a struggle to get my ladder in, depending on how that water supply sits in that extra truck. But generally, we would be trying to have that mindset where that engine 2 probably laid that LDH up to engine 1 and then dropped it and then pulled around it. All right, so it's not gonna clog up behind it. Now ladder one, if everything was pushed off to the side, tower three or ladder one can come up behind it and now be able to access that seam still. Oh, it should work. There's always the chaos of the fire scene. It doesn't always happen that way, but we're hoping for it to look and pan out. Is there anything wrong for you to get on scene and say engine one's laying in their own water supply? No. If you're the incident commander and you see a well-working fire and you lay in your own water supply, nothing wrong with that. I think it's a little bit cheating if you do it on your sim and just say engine one supply and getting their own water supply each time. I'm like, well, you're gonna be a little bit slow on that, all right? And that's one less person that you now have available. So if you say you're gonna lay in your own water supply, complete a search of that upper level, do fire control, and throw a ladder to the truck, all right. That's not realistic anymore, and that's maybe when you start losing points because you're getting out of the realistic expectations of what a crew can accomplish. All right. So we really want to avoid the two things that will help you, and we're going to give you all the cheat codes tonight. The two things that will really help you: don't assign crews before they get on scene. Seems a little counterproductive, right? Next crew in, I need you to grid a water supply. Don't do that because the scene can change, things can change on this. And then once that unit is there, you might actually want them to be doing something different. And it's never the unit that you think is going to be the next one on scene. All right. So I've heard it many times. Engine one's on scene. I need engine two. I need you to go ahead and grab that water supply. And the next thing you know, engine four is pulling up and they go, thank God I didn't have to get that water supply. And they just come cruising up to the lead scene and I'll go ahead and grab another line. All right. I kind of screwed myself because I didn't have that, blanket assessment of stage at the hydrant and then lay in. And then the other one, don't overload your crew assignment. All right. In the sense that a crew can only do so much, right? And it's really easy to, I've got this tactical list in front of me. I need a search at the lower level, a search at the upper level. I need to get fire control complete. I need to be realistic with your orders. Because if you overload a crew, they're not going to be efficient or effective in what they're trying to complete. And we need to see that you are realistic with your understanding of what a crew can actually complete. So I wouldn't say, engine two, I need you to get a water supply. I need you to throw a ladder to the Charlie side window. I need you to pull a line off of engine one, make entry, and then you're actually going to do a search at the lower level. And you can't stack all these things on there. I know you need to get them all done, but they're not all going to get done up front. Be realistic with what that crew can complete. Assign them one, maybe two tasks, and then go from there. Once it's complete, then you can assign it to the next crew. Because generally what will happen is engine one do this, and you got this big long list that engine one's doing. Engine two gets on scene, back them up. Engine three just go on deck. Well, realistically, engine one's not gonna be able to complete all those things. So give them realistic things to complete. Engine two can complete those next set of realistic things. Engine three then can be deployed and complete those set of realistic things. Helpful seeing how this works? I didn't confuse it more, I hope, right? Okay. Who wants to try? We'll go through it as a group. So it's not like you're not getting scored tonight. I can promise you that much. Go for it.
Can I stand up here? So
You can stand wherever you need to, and then just let me know when you want to walk around and I'll go ahead and move it for you, all right?
All right.
So when before you get started.
Yep.
When they did this in the last time.
Yep.
This was the second screen. The picture of the engine was the first thing.
Yep.
I think it was confusing to people.
Gotcha.
Because they weren't sure what they were supposed to do at all.
All right, I'll double check with Derek and make sure that that's
So
all.
just so they know which.
Yep, that's all cleaned up. Yep. And I'll play the role of dispatch in any of your units. So you don't need to talk to yourself like I did. Okay.
Dispatch from engine one.
Go ahead.
Dispatch, we were, engine one is responding to, I didn't get the address, but Lund Avenue structure fire. Report
Dispatch copies.
7571. Dispatch from engine one.
Go ahead.
Engine one's arriving to a small, one-story, single-family residence. I have a working fire on the Alpha Delta side of the home. I'm going to have, engine one, whole line for a quick hit while I do a 360. Engine one will have, Lund Avenue command.
Dispatch copies, your on-scene report. Sure you want to go?
We'll left. Dispatch from SPM command.
Go ahead.
360 complete. I confirm I do have no hazards in the back. It is a walkout and on the Delta side. I do have a working fire in the Alpha Delta side. Engine one will continue fire attack. This will be an offensive fire.
Dispatch copies, your 360 report. Engine two is staged.
Engine two from command.
Go ahead.
Engine two, can you pick up the, I'd like you to pick up the hydrant on the way in. It's on the house to the, like to the east. In front of the house next door. After that, I would like you to come in and back up engine one.
Engine two copies.
Tower three from command.
Go ahead.
Tower three, I'd like you to come up and be on deck for behind engine two. And secure gas on the Delta side. And go ahead.
Tower three copies.
Engine two from command.
Go ahead.
I need you to do a search and rescue behind engine one.
Engine two copies.
Can I get a part engine or can I engine one from command?
Go ahead.
Can I get a power report? Or sorry, I can't report.
Making progress on your orders. We have par.
Copy. And Chief four from command.
Go ahead.
We do, what we had was, we had a working fire on the Alpha Bravo side. I have, we have good extinguishment on that right now. Have engines one and two on the inside doing this, engine one do fire attack and engine two doing, search and rescue. I have tower three as a, on deck and taking care of the gas. We will need to complete a, search and rescue for the basement and to start some ventilation.
Then you get the awkward silence. Chief four
Yeah, that's
copies.
right.
Yep. All right. We can talk about it.
Okay.
That was good. Hey, thank you for giving it a shot. I appreciate it. That was good. What do you guys think?
It was better than mine that I did when I took it.
Well, hey, we got the benefit of going through this course now, so everything's, it should sound better now, right? So we got on scene, we did an initial size up, right? So how was our initial size up? Good, yep. I think the only thing I didn't hear was the strategy.
So,
Did he say, did he? Okay, all right.
So this will be an offensive.
Okay, got it. And then on the 360, how'd that go?
it's not a walkout.
So I heard walkout Delta side. So it's Charlie side, and it would have been a lookout, right?
Sorry.
Not a walkout.
Well.
It's a rambler,
Yeah,
it's a rambler.
Peek out, yeah.
Peek out, if you want to call it peek
I
out.
seen the
Yep, yep.
back, I seen the back, sliding door.
Yep, and
that
that,
threw me
and
off.
that throws, and I could tell because your rhythm was kind of off from that point, because I feel like,
I'm trying to remember
Yes.
so many damn.
yep, it's a lot. It's a lot, absolutely. So 360, I heard no hazards. Were there any hazards on this one?
Basement was no either,
So just identifying that there is, it's a Rambler style, single story with lookout windows on the Charlie side, that kind of is enough for me, at least for this level. Another thing that you could have gotten on this one, where were the power lines? Overhead on the Charlie side, right? On that Charlie Bravo corner. Now, were they impinged? Were they inhibiting any operations because everything was on the other side? Probably not. But did anybody else notice what kind of fire conditions did we have?
Looked like it was spreading to the attic.
Looked like it was spreading to the attic. So now does overhead power lines start to become at least somewhat of a thought process for us? So anytime you can address it, get it out there. I do have power lines, overhead power lines on the Charlie Bravo corner of the structure. It's an easy hazard. Go after the power lines because it just identifies now. Everyone knows, okay, I go to the attic. If I have to go to throw a ladder, if I have to do anything, I'm aware of where that is. All right. So that's an easy one. Now, again, just saying the basement style on this one, I think would be enough. I don't think I would ding you too much on that one. So, all right. So we did our 360. What did we miss after our 360? Ever confirm with engine one that they knew what to do beyond that quick hit? Did you ever reach back out to them
Yeah, I did for their CAN report.
for their CAN report?
Right.
But so all you did to engine one, you got on scene and said, do a quick hit. You completed that 360, and then the next crew that you assigned was engine two. Does engine one have confirmed positive objectives to complete inside of that structure? They were given a quick hit. What does a quick hit mean? Hit from the outside and then go in, right? But the last thing you want to do is have a crew take assumptions. We need to complete that order. We gave them an exterior order, complete that quick hit until I complete my 360. We need to confirm with them, engine one, complete that quick hit, make entry, alpha side, first floor, search, rescue, fire control. And once you have that in there, now as an evaluator, I know you have control of that unit. Me just hearing you say do a quick hit and then coming back later and saying engine two is backing them up, and now you're taking assumptions. We don't have the luxury of seeing what progress that they've actually made here. I need you to hear you say it, okay? So just make sure you're making that very clear. You know where they are and you're progressing them forward, okay? Engine two, what orders do we give them? So backup was the initial, and then it came back later is get a search behind engine one. Seem appropriate? Power three?
On deck.
On deck.
Good guess.
Yep. The only thing that I would say is we didn't really start addressing the fact that there was potential extension to that attic space.
I guess, see, I missed that. I didn't.
So, and again, that's just,
I would have said something.
yeah, no, and that's, again, I'm just trying to give you from the evaluation perspective. I would love to hear you say, not that tower three needed to be signed interior or whatever else, but once engine one had that fire under control, the CAN report from engine one, we're making good progress. Copy that engine one. I need you to check that attic space in that fire room. I believe we have possible extension to the attic. Just you saying that over the radio, it prompts it for everyone to understand where this fire is progressing. If I'm not on scene, if I haven't been assigned, what's next? If tower three is getting called up to on deck, what are they bringing now? Taking pipe poles,
Yeah.
right? I mean, because now I know, like, okay, we're gonna potentially have to go start getting up into that attic, right? They might even bring the attic ladder with them. Now they've got clear understanding of where this is gonna go next. Worst case scenario, you say, no, the priority is to search down in the basement. They can dump all that stuff out on alpha. The next person's gonna go use it, and they can go down, complete that search of alpha, and when they come back upstairs, they get reassigned to go check the attic. All that stuff's right there for them. It's still a win-win, right? So I think we did a good job addressing, we had a room and contents fire, right? With possible extension to that attic space. Why would we say it's possible extension? signs did we get?
Flames, but they're smoke.
Smoke.
There was good smoke, right? So some of these other scenes, we're not really seeing any involvement or any smoke pushing out of that attic space. I'm not seeing it out of the roof vents. I'm not seeing, if I start seeing those signs, does that necessarily determine that there's 100% an attic fire? No, but it means my smoke is pushed enough where it has also filled that attic space and is now pushing out of there. Which for smoke to fill that attic space, there's got to be some sort of a conduit to allow that much product to get in there. Product can get in there, heat can get in there. If heat can get in there, there can be fire in there. So we need to get to that next level. So that's really the big benefit of getting that clarity out to the rest of the group, is to understand that's potentially where this is going. So I think we did a great job addressing, we've got a room and contents fire. Let's get that quick hit done, make entry, search, rescue, fire control, get to that Alpha Delta corner, first floor, and address that. Engine 2, get in there, back them up, complete a search behind engine 1, copy that. It's a Rambler style house, pretty easy to complete a search behind them. Pretty much can guarantee that they went down, you know, you went in that front door and probably went down a hallway and there's a bedroom right in that Alpha Delta corner. Taking assumptions, but got a pretty good feeling on this, on what style of house that is. Pretty easy for that next crew to get into that hallway and then kind of search the surrounding area while engine 1 is working in there on that fire control. We're gonna be able to eliminate that first floor pretty quick, where we would have any potential occupants or fire hazards. So we're eliminating one of our 2 highest tactical objectives right off the bat. Get rid of the fire and get a primary, right? So if I can make the fire go away, search rescue becomes that much easier, right? And protection of life becomes that much easier. I've already established somebody's gonna be doing that search and rescue. And now it's just kind of gravy from there. Now I just have to stay ahead of it, right? And you hit it on the head on the transfer. The next step is that we still need to check the primary of the lower level, right? Still need to get into the basement and get primary complete. Nothing wrong with putting that as a tactical objective, because that 100% is. If I don't get a primary of that level and this house still burns down, it's a little bit more imperative that I get that primary complete and then the house burns down. Not that we're always just going to accept that the house is going to burn down, but if I get the primaries done and then it burns down, I think we feel a little bit better about that day, right? So that's a good thing. Getting ahead of it, just mentioning that attic space would be another good one. Transfer of command, how'd that sound?
Call that Alpha Bravo.
He did call it Alpha Bravo corner. Yep. So again, not that we're gonna be like minus 35 points. He didn't know where this fire was. But again, it's just one of those things.
Alpha Delta.
Yep. Hearing clear, consistent, common, ways of it being described, because then you don't want to cause any confusion or misunderstandings, right? So there may be a couple points, Doc, just out of clarity on that one, but other than that, really not too bad,
Would it be
right?
a pass?
I think that would be a pass. Again, I don't have a score sheet in front of me, but I think that would be a pass. I don't know. Anybody catch anything else? Anything else stand out to you? Okay, was good. Wait until the chief reaches out to you. In the actual testing, chief will get on scene. They'll announce chief 4 is on scene.
Oh,
Command from
so
chief
you would've
4.
said that? Okay.
Just like we say in real life, the chief will be the one that reaches out to you.
Okay, got it.
I will start asking for that transfer.
Yeah.
Now, not that you did anything bad, we've been practicing this. So you would just assume why wouldn't I jump right into it? But in real life scenario, as a chief, we would reach out.
They would be
And-
reaching out, yeah.
yeah.
So I'm not reaching out to them to transfer, so. Got it.
So, good. Questions? Anything else on that one? Okay. Let's run another one. Who wants to run this one? I can assign someone. One of your chiefs can assign someone. Go for it.
Someone raise their hands. There's been quite a few people that haven't done one yet.
Yeah, go for it. Chiefs, pick them out. I'll let you guys decide who gets it.
No, go ahead.
They only get harder, so, yeah, all right, there you go. All right. We'll go ahead and start.
Dispatch 10, 11,
Go ahead.
in route to 128th for the working fire. Crew of 4, Captain 10 does.
Dispatch copies.
Dispatch 10, 11.
Go ahead.
We're arriving to a medium 2-story, single family. Flame showing out of the garage. We are gonna be an offensive attack. Engine 11 will be pulling a line to do a quick hit as I do my 360.
Dispatch copies your on-scene report. We'll go ahead. This is your Bravo view. This is your Charlie view.
Okay.
Delta view. And back.
Okay, engine 11 is to command.
Go ahead.
Pull a quick line, 2.5, go, stay out of the garage, but hit it and until further directions. Dispatch to engine 11.
Go ahead, just for dispatch.
I've got a lookout. Single. I got a lookout with a fire in the garage. No other flames showing in the house. Continue with the attack.
Dispatch copies. Engine 2 is staged.
Engine 2, pull water supply and come up and back up engine.
Engine 2 copies.
Engine 11, what you can.
We're making good progress on your orders. We have par.
Yeah. Engine 2, as soon as you get water supply, go up and back up engine 11, and you guys can make interior attack on that.
Engine 2 copies. Tower 3 on scene.
Tower 3, I want you to come up and do a primary search of the house. Start on the second story, work your way down. And it is a lookout basement.
Tower 3 copies.
Tower 3 to command.
Go ahead.
Is there any extensions upstairs?
Not at this time. Dispatch, Chief 4 is arriving on scene. Command from Chief 4.
Chief 4. So we arrived to the small stall of the garage on fire. We did a quick hit as I did my 360. Flames were extinguished pretty well. We're still doing extension, checking for extensions inside the garage. I've got engine 11 and engine 2 on the fire attack. Tower 1 is upstairs doing primary searches, and they said there's no extensions inside. Objective is just finishing overhaul.
Chief 4 copies. Yeah, awkward silence. Great. All right. What do we think? Size up. Start with that. What do we have?
Small.
Medium.
Small. I'm not gonna necessarily
Your house, you should
dig,
know.
it's a small, I can get a pre-connect through there. I guarantee I get pre-connect through there, but And that's just, but in the sim world, there's a little bit of that grace, you know, in real life, I can see something and gauge pretty well on a screen. If you tell me that that's a mega, we're not gonna get points for that one.
Mega house.
Small to medium, I can understand, as far as sim world, but small would be a better choice, I think, but either way. Small, 2-story, single family home, right? Problem was we had working fire Alpha Delta corner of the garage, attached garage, under garage, or attached garage with living space above, however you wanna describe that. So not bad, you had very good clarity in it, but I think it could have provided that a little bit more, because if we hear it's a tuck under or living space above, you know, the garage, does that kind of give a little bit more of a picture? So, good. What were the initial orders? What was engine 11 doing? Quick hit.
Offensive quick hit over there.
Yep, on the garage, while you were gonna complete a 360 offensive strategy. Sim command, right? Okay. 360, how'd that look? Good, yeah, so what do we have? 360 complete, we have a lookout basement. No other changes, right? Working fire in the Alpha Delta corner with living space above. Again, that just, especially if that wasn't in the initial, getting that in the after, it's an attached garage. As long as it's get captured, that it's painting that picture, it's an attached garage with living space above. That's a lot, big difference than just a detached garage or a garage with nothing above, right? So that clarity can be very helpful. So you had the 360 complete. Would you have engine 1 finished for their assignment? Because initially it was just do a quick hit and then you went back to them. What was their order?
To make advancement into the ground as soon as engine 2 got to them.
So basically you released them once they had that quick hit complete, they could make entry into the garage. Is that my understanding of what it was? Okay. Engine 2 then was going to
Get water and then.
get water and back them up. I'm not gonna say it's wrong. I don't think it's wrong, because anytime that we can back up a fire attack crew, that's probably a safe thing to do. We would have, where's that fire gonna do the most damage next?
Upstairs.
Into that residence, right? So personally, when I attack these, first line goes in, next line goes into the house, right? So first line to the garage, once that's been knocked down, or even if it's in the process of being knocked down from the exterior, somebody's going inside to cut that off. All right, because if a door got left open, if something got burned through, whatever else, we have not gotten any confirmation on what it looks like inside. What other clue did we get? Smoke coming from the front door and from the vents and from the eaves, right? So there's potential that it's at least gotten through somewhere, right? Just because it's coming through the eaves, does that mean it's in the house? No. But it's giving you clues, right? It's not just in the garage. It's trying to get somewhere else. Cut it off. So it's not just seeing that I have this, it's trying to read a little bit of that fire and that behavior and where it wants to go next and how do I cut it off. So personally, first line garage, that's the right move. You got fire showing, knock that down, get that back in there. Next line is going to go into the house off the side front door. So, and I know we always say, you know, I'm trying to drive home, back up that first line, back up that first line. Going into a garage is a little bit different. You got this big giant open door, and when we're going into a garage, how far in are we going? Not very far. Generally, you have a big open space. Yeah, there might be a car, it might be some obstructions, but we're not generally going in too far, especially if that was that well of a working fire. I'm probably not going to be standing inside of that more than 5-10 feet, right? It's going to have to cool down for a little bit. So the need to back that crew up might not be up front. It might be more when it becomes a little bit more of that overhaul and some of that salvage work is getting done in that garage area. So personally, attack that, get a crew in, work on cutting that off. There's no extension. What does that crew set up perfectly to finish? Primary. Yep. So best case scenario, they walk in with that line. There's no extension. Drop it and complete that search. Right? Get going on it. Tower 3, they were assigned to primary on the upper level. And I like that you're very clear. I want you on the upper level and work your way down. That very clear, good objective, task location, all of the things. I think that was a good use of that crew as well. I think that's to that point, especially if there's one line in the garage, one line in the house. So it's absolutely a great order to give. I get concerned when all of our lines are in the garage, we've got nothing established in the house, and we just start sending crews searching in a smoke-filled environment where there's still potentially extension. Just be cautious of that. I'm not saying it's wrong. We're trained to do things like that, but we don't need to put people at undue risk, right? You know, yes, there's potential that we can risk to save in that area. It's still a livable space. I could still save somebody in there, but getting that initial line in there to protect would be a beneficial thing for that crew. So. Transfer. How'd that sound? Said what we had. Said where all the crews were. Said what had to happen next. Right? For the most part, we had the things that we needed. Right? Is it that difficult? When we break it down in these little parts and pieces, just to understand, the hard part is having that nice, clear cadence, that rhythm, that sound, that confidence that you're giving good, clear directions, right? That's what we need to continue just to practice on. And it only comes with just doing it over and over and over and over again to get comfortable with how do I give that order? How do they understand what I'm saying? How do they progress? When do I have them do this? When do I have them do that? And it just all happens with practice. Because I could even tell there was a couple times that we start, both of us going through it, when you start describing what you want them to do. You know, I need you to grab this line and you're going to be on the outside and I want you to hit that fire and don't even, I need you to grab a line and do an exterior fire attack, right? Again, we get back to that tactical communication, very clear cut, the fewest amount of words possible to get that description across is going to be the most beneficial thing. We all hear complete an exterior attack. I think we know what to do over there, right? So just think about that. And that comes with practice. And you're not going to have every single description of every single way to attack or deploy or do whatever written down and okay, I'll just go and use that. It comes with getting comfortable with what could I assign them? How would that sound? How do I take the fewest amount of words to say complete that search on the first floor? How do I get that terminology down to the minimum instead of describing the whole task, right? Just try to base it around the objective. What am I trying to complete? Search and rescue. Complete search and rescue on the first floor. Easy. Fire attack or fire control. Complete fire control on that side, exterior. Boom, done. Move on. You know, and that's the beauty of it, is don't think that you have to be too descriptive. Now, if you need a 2.5 versus an 1 3/4, that's something to be descriptive about, right? But don't worry too much about every little detail of how they're going to get placed and put in there. Right? Still got a little bit of time. Does anybody want to try one more? No, just go. All right, all right. I don't have.
Not complete.
Like, oh, yeah, you're still starting part. Cisco.
All right.
So this one's chief level. All right, so I'm not saying that we're going to grade you to the chief level. I'm just saying there's more complexities here. And I think that'll be beneficial for you guys just to kind of see. I'm not going to have you go beyond the first 3 units for assignments, and then we'll just kind of talk after that point, and then I'll ask you for a transfer of command. Okay. All right. So let's just pretend that you are on engine 2. You're on engine 2. Okay. You're Captain 20 on engine 2. You got a crew of 4.
That's being, we don't announce our captain. So
We don't.
we do not.
No. It just
Or
helps.
officer.
It just helps people understand.
Right.
Yeah, just try to give as much information as we can. Engine 2 is responding.
So I can be.
Yep, so you're now is engine 2.
So county dispatch,
Yep, but
engine 2, is responding to the structure fire, 86th lane, crew of 4.
Dispatch copies.
What is that street north and south?
Hastings.
Hastings?
Yep.
Okay, county dispatch.
Go ahead.
Engine 2 is arriving on scene to a small, single family, split entry home. We do have a working fire on the Alpha Bravo corner with possible extension. You're gonna have, engine 2 will pull a line for a quick hit, 360 to follow. Engine 2 is in 86th lane command.
Dispatch copies. There's your Bravo view. There's your Charlie view. And your Delta view.
Oh, no.
Where'd she come from?
So pale. Okay. So I'm coming around, my 360 is complete, I'm running into my crew. I'm letting them know, we need to do a quick hit. I ran into the homeowner on the Delta side. She says that her child is in the home still. So they're making a quick hit and then I'm gonna have them go in and.
Who do you need to update right now? 360 is complete. Who do you need to talk to now? If you already talked to your crew that they'll need to go in.
So I gave them enough.
Yep.
So they know they're going, crew's going in, hit the fire quick from the outside. They're going in, they're gonna try and find the child, I guess. So county dispatch.
Go ahead.
86 command, 360 is complete. We do have a working fire on the first floor, Alpha Bravo, and the Charlie side. We do have confirmed patient inside the home still. Engine 2 is entering the home with search and rescue.
Ladder 1's on scene.
Ladder 1, this is command.
Go ahead.
Need you to hook the hydrant to engine 2. And as soon as the water is connected, we need another crew to back up engine 2 to go in. Yes.
Ladder 1 copies. Fridley engine 3 is arriving on scene.
So then. Move my second crew, I'm sorry.
Ladder 1 is your second crew.
Okay, so ladder 1, this is command.
Go ahead.
Make sure that I've got them, go into residence first floor, back up, engine 2, and, I guess assist with finding the victim and fire suppression.
All right, we'll pause right there. So you're having crews make entry right now. Can crews make entry into this scene? So I can tell you right now, especially if there wasn't the patient on this one, I'm going, well, this is awesome. I get to go inside of that. That's going to be great. That's a cooker. That's not, I'm not making it in there. I mean, I can try to push that fire back, but you got fire rolling on your main level.
See the Charlie side?
Yep. And then your Charlie side. So it's cooking. So it's basically cooking through your kitchen, your living room. It's made it down to the foyer. I mean, we got smoke coming out here. We got smoke coming out of the window above the sink. Well, no, we're well charged. Where's that fire? Yep. Is there anything on this end of the building?
Hook a ladder.
Is this patient viable? Yeah. Yes. Yep. So I would all day long, and this is something that we don't. When do you know when is the right time to go without a water line, and when is it the time to not go for fire? Right here. That is a viable patient. That is life safety. You've got a mom telling me my kid is in that room right there.
When you say 360 complete, We're not doing.
360 complete. I'm pulling engine 2. They're dropping their line, grabbing a ladder, doing VEIS on this window right here. Vent, enter, isolate, search. They're jumping in here. Do we believe that there's any involvement in this side of the home? That door is likely closed. That's my belief. Now, I cracked that window open and black smoke comes pouring out.
Right.
And you know,
Bad day, but you know, we can still work with that, right? A flow path would be established, but that's why we go in quick and shut the door, right? So this is totally a situation where I would say, go for the rescue from the outside. If I attack that fire and go for the rescue from the inside, how am I getting that patient back out?
Go right out that way.
And I'm gonna pull them back through all that smoke. Potentially right now, they're in a room that has limited heat, limited smoke, and I'm going to introduce all of that into them. For me to go save them. Yep. They have the best option for survival if I just go ahead and ladder that real quick, break the window, go in, try to get them out. And if it's a real quick, they're not going down to the next room. They're not going down to the next, they're going to this room right here, breaking that window, jumping in, VEIS, they find the door right away, ensure that it's closed, complete a search, and then they get back out. Nobody's in there.
So you would confirm with your crew, this is as far as you go, is
Yep.
this room.
Training topics, right? So I shouldn't have to explain to you how to lay a line, right? Or I shouldn't have to, so. And this is why we say this is more of the chief level, because you're the one that has to make that decision. Does your crew have that understanding for VEIS?
Right.
Have we trained on it enough? Have we,
Right.
do we have the established techniques and we talk about those variables in the equation? Can that crew complete this task? Is it 3 brand new people that have no idea what you said? I gotta do vice? What's vice? What's that mean? I didn't bring my players, you know, so, they might not have any clue, but if you have a crew that's trusted for that, you know, you can do that. And that's why in SimWorld, we're giving you good, clean crews of 4 capable of, we can do what you've been trained to, right? So if we've trained to that level, you can do that. Okay. Not something we do a ton, but this is one of those times that we want you to identify. We go beyond the fire and we go for the rescue. Okay. So before I let you go too far down the rabbit hole, we got a really well working involved fire. So my initial orders, I'll tell you this much, everything sounded really good. All right. It was a great size up, did a good 360. The initial orders is what I would do for engine 2. Drop your line, grab a ladder, you can do VIS on the Delta side. We have an occupant trapped on that upper level. All right. So they've been redeployed. Ladder 1 gets on scene. What are they going to do? I would have them pick up that line. Pick up that line and start working the fire. Because what's going unchecked right now that whole time? If I can start putting that fire in check and getting water on it, hopefully I'm going to improve those conditions for that crew that's now going to be going in for that rescue, right?
Second truck on scene was there.
Second truck was a ladder. Yep. And again, depending on the department you talk to, that could be, you know, blasphemy to say that the ladder does anything with a hose at all. But, you know, for our area, a ladder truck is going to do whatever we tell them to do, right? I mean, they're basically an engine just with a big ladder on top that's capable of more
We
stuff.
utilize it when
We utilize it as needed, right? Exactly. So for us, ladder 1, grab that line, start doing that. Engine 3, secure that water supply, grab a backup line, backup ladder 1. All right. Now, if the case came in where engine 2 needed some support or the CAN report came back that for whatever reason, and I need to move crews over to that side to assist with that, maybe that's how it would go. But as long as they're able to do VIS and they're well established, everything else is going to be working on trying to control this fire to make the environment better for them to complete that rescue. That makes sense? Anybody differ, disagree? Makes sense? All right. So that's how I would progress through that. And then at that point, you're getting CAN reports. Progress is good. Nobody's giving you anything beyond that. You're keeping par. Chief gets on scene. Let's say engine 2 on their CAN report said we've got the child out, Delta side. We're going to meet the medics in the Alpha side front yard. Okay. Seem realistic. They've got a viable patient, possible smoke inhalation. We're going to go meet medics out on the Alpha side. How's that transfer of command sound? Chief gets on scene. I get there. I say, hey, command from Chief 4. I'm going to go ahead and assume command. Can I get a transfer of command?
So we arrived on scene, which we have a working fire in the Alpha Bravo, or essentially the first floor, I guess, Alpha Bravo. And Charlie side, we had a confirmed patient. On the Delta side, engine 2 was able to get the patient out. Next crews worked on fire extinguishment and Is this still the current?
Yeah,
condition?
we'll say this is still current, yeah.
Okay, so we got second, third ragged crews working on fire extinguishment right now and checking the extension.
Definitely extension.
I mean, basically, all you do is paint the picture on what the crews have done up to this point. I mean, we have not really made it any better at this point, have we? So we still got a lot of fire control. All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna preface that.
Forget.
We haven't made the fire components of this any better yet. As far as the most important thing, the one thing that we got called there for, right, which is life safety. We established that, right? We did that. And we did it in a safe way. Now, if she's sitting here pointing, my baby's in that room right there. What approach are you taking? Well, we're gonna start throwing water on that. And then I'm gonna maybe get my crew in there.
Right.
You know,
That's gonna be a
just
chief
not
talk.
water.
Yeah.
That's the chief talk, where and you go, understood, ma'am, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do everything we can. You're just a company officer, that's all I need you to do. You start having your crews working your water lines and start advancing in there. Now, we're still gonna, that's gonna be our priority. We're gonna try to get to that, but I think we all know what you're gonna come across, right? That is not an opportunity where we throw a ladder and try to make entry.
Do you think, would your follow-up question to that be, is there anyone else in the house?
Absolutely.
Right.
So absolutely. And that's absolutely what you want to do. All right, I understand. And how do you know they're in that room? Is it a baby? Are they in a
Right.
crib? Are, you know, how old, you know, and is there anybody else? Is it the only one? You know, there will be other follow-up questions.
Because
That
with
you want
that
to
Delta
have.
side still not involved, you could send a crew in there to do a primary, starting from there
Mhm.
and see if maybe somebody was in the kitchen or living room and worked their way into the bedroom. When the fire started, they couldn't get out, so they went to the bedroom.
So I would say my ladder's going here. I'm going into this. I'm shutting the door, right? VIS, I'm not going beyond the room that I'm searching from the window because I don't have the safety. If I leave that room, potentially I'm making it more hazardous for myself. I'm not gonna be able to find my way back. I shut the door, I search that room. That's negative. Nobody's in there. Can I go to this window?
Yeah.
Can I go to this window?
Yeah.
There's no signs telling me that I couldn't. So you just redeploy the ladder and you make entry again
From the exterior.
from the exterior.
Probably a
Because if I
hallway.
continue working from that bedroom and just keep going down hallway to hallway, what have I done? I've also established a pretty good flow path where there wasn't fire before, and I have now eliminated my egress. I have none, because I took that window out. Even if I shut that door and moved to the next one, well, now I also shut the door that was telling me on my way out where to go. And I've pushed myself even closer to the fire. So that's why we say VIS never goes beyond the room that you entered into. Always stays in that room. But you're absolutely right in the sense that I can continue to search these areas. These are still viable areas. Just make sure you do it appropriately. All right. Don't get drawn in. Don't put your crews in unsafe situations because that's how we get them hurt or killed. Some clarifying questions are very beneficial. Has anybody been on a scene where my baby's inside and baby was a cat? Or, you know, and again, not that belittles that it's, you know, a valued, you know, piece of their family. But that's a little bit different. What are we going to risk a firefighter in certain situations for different levels of, yeah, exactly. Obviously we're there to protect. Obviously we're there to get their animals out, but it's a different scenario than if there's a child trapped inside of there.
I think age is a good point too, because kids, younger kids will typically hide. somewhere, Right.
And that's very, because again, I hear a child.
Right.
Is it a 16-year-old or is it a 6-month-old? Completely different scenario, because now I also know if it's a 6-month-old, I'm likely looking for a bassinet. I'm likely looking for a crib. You know, does that change your thought process for a search versus a 16-year-old? Absolutely. Get the information that you can, you know, and will you get that necessarily in the sim world? I'm not gonna say yes or no, but in reality, those are things that you would have access to, right? And again, knowing if there's more than one, is grandma home too? Is there any, you know, because that's just more than one viable bedroom that we have that we could search. You potentially find somebody in, so.
And possibly
Probably easily
downstairs
a
too.
four-
And possibly downstairs too, absolutely. 'cause there-
Four-bedroom house.
Yeah, and really, there's no signs that there's anything in the basement. Honestly, this is one of the ones that I probably feel the safest and most comfortable entering the window and going into the basement, because really, it doesn't appear that there's any involvement on that level. Now, that doesn't mean you just break the window and jump in. You break the window and the flow path is just showing you that there's really nothing there. Hey, it's a safe environment for me to go into. Still not gonna go beyond that room, but it's a safe environment for me to search now. versus up here. I know I take this window and all of a sudden I get black smoke pouring out of there. I probably don't have very long that I could be in that room. That flow path is telling me that that door was open, for whatever reason, that window was keeping everything in check. And now that it's open, that flow path is gonna give that oxygen, cool air, and that ability to vent, and that's just gonna flash over on you. That whole upper level will go. So it's a dangerous objective to throw out there, but in the right circumstance situation, it's absolutely a necessity or a viable option for us to use and really should be used. So
But you break that window and black smoke starts pouring out, you don't back out, you go in and shut that door, right?
yes, as long, and again, it depends. If I've got flames shooting out or, too high a heat, you don't. But, you take that out and you've got, it's less than this, it's that you got smoke. I guarantee you there's gonna be smoke in these rooms. It's not necessarily gonna be charged or turbulent. Nothing wrong with breaking it, getting the tick up there and doing a quick scan too. Like, can I find where the door is? Do I know where it is? Can I get a temperature reading on here? No, we don't just blatantly just trust what our tick is telling us for a temperature. But if you're seeing white going across the ceiling or red or, any indication that there's really high heat in there, that's going to give you some indications. Can I get to that door or not? Is there a viable patient in this room or not? Do that quick scan on there, get in, shut the door, and close it. Yeah.
Is this a situation too where you could, instead of breaking the window up on the ladder, break the window with the ladder?
Absolutely.
To check for conditions before you get somebody up there, and let's say it's in the middle of the night and you can't see.
Yep.
You don't know what that room looks like.
Yep.
And you get somebody up there to break the window and then you get,
Yep. I would
smoke pouring out.
I would likely have that window, the tips are probably breaking through that very bottom of the window, and then you're gonna start to see those conditions. Now, as soon as you break that glass, I'd better have somebody ready to start
Right.
moving, right? Because if I've just allowed that to just continue to go unchecked,
Right.
If I didn't have somebody masked up, ready to go, I'm just allowing that flow path to establish and make that room worse than it was
Yeah.
before. So everything has to be balanced on that, and I apologize, we kind of got more into VIS tactics than we did anything else, but at the end of the day, I thought this was a valuable one to show because it goes beyond, we got on scene, there's a fire, yep, address it and then move on, right? There's other things at play, there's a bigger expanding scene here, right? And so with some decision making, right? And I think that's a beneficial thing for us to kind of hear. Your company officer test is not going to be this complex and challenging. Now, does that mean that the real world's gonna be that nice to you just because you're a company officer? No. We're testing and grading you to a certain level and expectation, knowing that that's probably beyond what you're normally gonna see. And then that's why we test the chiefs up to a even higher level, because that might even be beyond what they see, but they're still prepared for it, right? They're still prepared to answer that and coach people through it. So, don't let it discourage you. We're not trying to throw too much at you. We're just trying to give you some development and some process with it. So. Any other questions? That pretty much runs us right up to 7:55. Yeah.
So we haven't discussed it here, but I see it on the screens. Are we graded on saying if we're switching to attack A once we arrive on scene?
So, I can pretty much tell you the only things that you're graded on, and again, just keep it in the sense it's your size up, 360, it's your orders to your crews, it's your transfer, right? Your decision-making process through there. There might be a couple little extra points, and I consider those extra, because if you're doing really well, most of our good scores are, I'd say 90. But an excellent score is somebody that also established something about utilities, and it just really went above and beyond because they truly displayed their understanding through the scene and everything else. So they're extra points. 90 is what I would strive for. 90 is a good score in my mind. So focus on those things. Focus on practicing that. I did talk to Derek, and he was going to be establishing some times to go through the sims that you guys did complete and kind of talk about where the improvements and things were. So I know that they were working on establishing the time to do that, establishing when the next phase of testing would be, all that other stuff. And then what I'll do is I'll work on getting you guys some more practice stuff in the meantime. All right. So helpful. Seems like this is good. Because again, I think we realized last time we're testing on something that we never really trained or gave you a standard to understand on. And that was really unfair. So let's make sure you have a good understanding of the content that we're hoping that you would understand. Now we'll go ahead and go back and allow you to show us your ability to absorb that and display it. Okay, so that's really what we want. So I don't want you guys to feel discouraged, like, oh, we got to start all over again. No, we're just making sure now that you've had it, how can you display it and show us your skills with it? Okay, and we'll continue to support that. Anything else?
Great information.
Thanks, I'm glad you guys
Very
were
good
here.
questions.
Yeah, no, you guys had great questions, so I appreciate you bringing some good questions and helping us all work through this, so. Like I said, I'll keep throwing out some of that, practice stuff and then, it'll be good.
Thank you.
Absolutely.